Young Money Mona here, Live Radio 9, coming at you. This is about the day of court. I'm going to get right to it. There's a lot to go over. So, safe to say, after the night before, I was on fire. I literally wore black pants. I was not hijabi at the time, that were halfway between my ankles and my knees. They had fire up the side. They were black pants with fire flames. I wore a red collared short sleeve under a big fluffy white sweater with a red dog. My mom bought me the sweater, but it worked. With the collar out. And then the fire flames, and then I actually switched the laces on my Jordans that I was wearing, some black and gray Jordans. I had one of them black and one of them red. So I go to court, my lawyer is there with dyed hair, and I make a rude comment, basically letting him know, you used to be gray, that's dye. I was in a bad mood. Then the whole compulsion thing goes on in court. I deny the agreement afterwards. And I go home. I should mention, when they said we're going to call two subjects here at, I believe it was 3 o'clock, and we'll do whatever you tell them to do, my mom actually disappeared at 2 o'clock that afternoon. My sister came to pick me up at 5 that afternoon. We went to her house. I called my mother, who was supposed to be on her way. She was supposed to meet us there at 5. She said she was 15 minutes away. At 7 o'clock, I called her because she was not there. I was worried. She made a very odd remark, like, I've been driving around and I just don't know where I'm going. And I was like, we'll come find you, send your location. Then she said, oh no, I found it. So I was like, I'm coming outside, just wait, I'm going to come get you, because I was worried. And when I went down there, she's like, get in the car. So I assumed she wanted to talk. So I get in the car, and then she pulls off. And after she pulls off, I am like, what are you doing? We're supposed to hang out, me, you, and Dunya. All my stuff is up in Dunya's apartment. And she's like, starts rambling about how she had better things to do, like hang out with her friends, and how I'm ruining her life, and just a bunch of other crazy things. And then she starts to plunge into traffic full speed. So I somehow managed to get us not to crash. Can't even recall. And then I convinced her to pull over and stop the car. She was only pulling over to let me out, as far as she knew, but I already knew as soon as the car turned off, I was going to snatch the key out of the ignition. And that's exactly what I did. We then proceeded to fight. I should say, my mom seemed like she was amped on something. I don't know what, but my mom was not in her normal state of mind. So we physically fought. I didn't want to fight her, but I did defend myself, and I wasn't going to let her get the key from me and drive away in the state she was in. I also wouldn't let her walk away from me. She accepted the fact I wasn't going to give her the car and decided she wanted to walk away. And it was winter time and there was a lot of lakes nearby. And I just did not know the state of mind my mother was in. And they were discussing compulsion in court. So I was terrified to let my mother leave my side, although she was not wanting to be around me. Before that actual part, while she was still trying to get the key in the car, she stated to me that everything I said was real and it was going on, that the car was tapped and they were watching us, that they were, reading, they knew everything, and that if I did not kill my mother to prove I was crazy, that they were going to lock me up in jail or a mental hospital. So, everything was super hard, and then after that, a pedestrian stopped in his car, and who knows if he was a pedestrian or not, but he, let me call people, and I called my dad in Florida, and I called my sister came and picked me up, but my mom drove off, and I was really worried about her because I don't know who, but my sister or my sister's friend gave the key to my mother. I forget. I was so upset. And we went and looked for my mom. We actually found her, but she sped off, so we ended up just going home. When we got home, I was obviously like riled up. My mom had just told me crazy things. My mom had just lost her mind. And my stepdad got home, and as he literally was walking up, the first thing he said to me was, Mona, if you don't calm down, I'm going to call the cops. So then I was like really scared, and I just started running. And I ran through a field of spikes, but I had a jacket on, so I was fine. Like, I didn't feel any of it. And I went to a friend of mine's house, and it didn't end up being their house anymore. And then I went to a neighbor's of the old house, called that friend because I knew their number. They said they'd pick me up at a certain place. I went and waited there for like, I don't know how long, and they never showed up. So I went and walked somewhere so I could use a phone and call them like, hey, what happened? They ignored all the calls. And then I was outside like crying out of a Mexican restaurant, and this girl, it was cold outside, so she like came and asked me what was wrong, and I like kind of told her what was going on. And she's like, here, come in here, and I'm going to get you an Uber and just take it wherever you need to go. So then I was waiting for this Uber to pull up, and it took like much longer than it said it was going to take. And when it pulled up, it wasn't the car that she told me to look out for. But I just got in anyways. So it was a young black gentleman, and he seemed to know exactly what was going on. He was like asking questions to get me to open up. So I did open up. I told him, and he was like, you can ride around with me if you want. And I was like, yeah, that's cool. Can you take me to go get my stuff from my sister's house? Because I had all my stuff at my sister's house, and I wanted to get a hotel that night. And my card and my ID was in my backpack there. So he lets me use his phone to call my sister and tell her I'm coming and to get the address. And my sister actually sends me an address near hers, but not hers. And she calls the cops and lets them know that I'm on my way there. Because I guess the cops were called after I ran. After I ran, the cops were called. So when we were pulling up, I didn't know this, but when we were pulling up, we saw like 3 different cop cars pull into my sister's complex. So the guy, luckily, he peeped it real fast, so he turned, and we sat in a parking spot for like a half an hour until the cops cleared out. And then we left, and I basically was like, is there any way I can stay at your place? Because, like, I don't know where to go. It was, like, really bad. So he was like, yeah, you can stay at my place. And then it ended up that he wanted to touch me. And if I didn't let him touch me, I was not allowed to sleep over. So I didn't know that until after I got there. So I was like, okay, well, you can drop me off at a hotel. So I called my dad to see if my dad would like book a hotel for me, which he was going to. But I forgot that I didn't have my ID, so I couldn't get a hotel. And the guy had already pulled off when I figured this out. So then I went to the gas station that was like right next door, luckily. And I called my mom. And she answered, and she told me that I needed to call the cops and tell them that I needed to go to the hospital. So I called my dad, and I was like, I'm not doing that. I don't know what's going on. This is not normal. And so after sitting in the gas station for like maybe a half an hour, 45 minutes, I think it was 4 or 3 cops came in, like a sergeant and some of his younger people, and he was like, are you Mona? And I was like, yeah, and I was really scared. And he was like, we got an anonymous call from Brother on the Run that you needed help. And then I just like started crying because I really didn't know what was going on. And, like, I had, like, been taking a lot of signs from Eminem's music, and, like, I had said in my head, like, oh, you're like a big brother to me. So I think, like, whoever made the anonymous call did that to, like, try to make me look dumb in front of others, or just to, like, upset me. I don't know, but I feel like, I don't know. But, so I talked with the cops, and they agreed to try to get me a hotel and print out my ID from their computer in the car. The hotel didn't go for it, I guess. I didn't go over with them, but they said it didn't work. And then, so my only option, like, they were like, I mean, the only thing we can really tell you is, like, to go to the hospital. So I literally had to, like, get an ambulance ride, so I have a bill for who knows how much, to go to the hospital. And I got there, like, 3 in the morning. They discharged me at 6, and I had, like, 4 or 3 psych evaluations. Like, every time I fell asleep, they woke me up, and I was really tired. And then the next morning when I got discharged at 6, I called to my mom, and she said that when my little brother got on the bus at 6, when my little brother got on the bus at 6:50, that she would come pick me up, but she ended up not showing up until like 3 in the afternoon. So that was everything leading up to me getting Baker-rated. Session 10 is going to be on my hospital stay. I was taken to the hospital the night of the day that I just talked about. Stay tuned.